What's up, everybody? Welcome to another mod stream. We're looking at Cellbound, which is my Mapcrap Season 4, Episode 2 map. I say that, I don't actually know if this will be a Mapcrap map, because I don't know who else is going to submit. We might end up in a repeat of last week, where I was almost ready with my map, Veek was almost ready with his map, and nobody else. So that might end up happening, something similar might end up happening this time around, in which case we'll just wait until everybody's around. As you know, sometimes real life gets you constipated. All right, intro over. Let's get into the map. So actually what I'll do is I'll close this so that I can rename the map file. And then we'll do some initial work on that. I go to my Mapcrap folder. And then we can jump in here. Just because I have to show the website off at least once. Contractually obligated, of course. I was actually trying to think about... who the Terrans would be. Yeah, I'm thinking they'll probably be Nidus Trinity stuff. Trying to think of a good word to describe the player's faction. I don't think detachment makes sense. But I was thinking of like... I was thinking of something similar to jury, actually. Because the idea is that like these guys decide if you're guilty or not, basically. In this case, you're supposed to like defeat the Protoss faction and bring their leaders to justice. And so I was trying to think of like what would make sense there, because you're bringing them back to prison to stand trial, so to speak, is like the subtext of the mission, and that's why it's called Cellbound, because you're fighting Starbound, who have escaped, apparently, and it's your job, your duty to return them. So I don't know if that would be most accurately represented with like... I wouldn't want to use something like bailiff, but even then that's like for order in a court. That's not for like returning somebody to prison. You obviously can't use like police force or whatever, so I guess you could say constabulary, but that feels a little bit long and not very epic. So maybe jury actually is like interesting as a term to describe a military faction, right? Like a task force. So I guess that'll be what we write down for now. Maybe I'll have a better idea later. And then for these guys, I'm thinking what I would actually call them. We can call them Starbound. Is heretic too strong of a word in this context? I would just say like mutineer, traitor. A traitor feels a little bit blasé. Heretic feels too overblown. Mutineer is like slightly more arcane than I want, actually. It's like slightly more like... Well, I guess it sounds a little bit too tyranny, right? And Betrayer is obviously slapstick, so... Still can't believe DF's picture on Trello is a fucking Hello Kitty cat. Hilarious. Worshippers of the Zerg swarm, thoroughly reviled by all other Terrans. Oh, Exile might be fine, I guess we can say Starbound Exiles. That's very, like, broad, but I guess that kind of works for the Starbound, because they're not really meant to be organized like a faction. Like, the Nidus, even the Nidus Trinity has different sects of its cult, so to speak. And then, like, obviously the Divine Primacy has plenty of sects. So yeah, I kind of like where we're going with this. I kind of like where we've taken that one. So this was... We'll actually write in the faction names and stuff. This is Eviz Sect T. This will be Cellbound. Or no, Starbound. Starbound P. Now, in this case, it's not even really like the Primacy would be going around allying with Terrans, but maybe they would have forged an alliance of convenience, except the Terrans here are Nidus Trinity motherfuckers who obviously like, oh, what are you trying to defeat these people for? Because we're also trying to defeat them, and then it comes out that they're like, well, we came here to reclaim the Zerg swarm so that we could use them as our... We're here to worship them. It's like, okay, you have to die too then, I guess. So that's kind of funny to me. Like, no luck getting any sane combatants. Is there no end to this depravity? And the answer is no. Never any end. In fact, the Protoss should be grateful that they never stumbled upon the Terran internet. That's what I'll say. So I guess I should actually drop a save, and we can look at the BMPs of what's happened so far. Most of the work that I did in that is what I was messing around with tiles there is the only work I've actually done in the layout since yesterday. So I actually think it's fine to still call that yesterday's stuff. So obviously we went from a blank map to this in one session. And then you'll notice there's not really a massive set of layout changes. I mostly tried to adjust the repeated tiles in a couple of places, like try to improve tile variety, basically. Mostly with the flagstones in the top. And aside from that, I did add this north-facing ramp over here, so this is a very thin passageway that's like going to be useful for small armies, and obviously flanking. So I figure that will see more use now. I might need to move it down into the whole thing down into the left by 1, just because it might be too little space. But I don't know. I think I'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll agree with that sentiment a little bit later on into development or something and make the change anyway. But aside from that, yeah, I haven't done too much. I do, for whatever reason, for these Mapcraft maps, I have mostly worked on them on stream. So make of that what you will. I'm trying to think. I thought there was some other like layout based change that I did, but it doesn't look like it. I'm still considering what to do about the Zerg and where they're going to be positioned. I do kind of like the idea that they could be up top, and that over here could be like an expansion or something. Like they could essentially be right above the Protoss. I think that could be kind of interesting, considering it's obviously a team. Like, they're a team. If they're right next to each other, that's pretty cool. So... I don't know how to return to the previous zoom level, but whatever. There you go. Fixed it. Yeah, I got to think a little bit more on that. I still think the spacing of this area over here is pretty lame. And I think I'll probably revisit this area as well as the area over... Well, I'll revisit, like, the whole northern area once the southern area is done. I think that's what I'll do. That way I don't get, like, lost trying to, like, detail and make certain areas, like, very specific or whatever. Without, actually fixing up some of this stuff. I did actually forget that we have sunken ground on the main tile as well. The low tile, I mean. The problem is sunken ground doesn't really do anything. There's no height advantage or disadvantage to it. And there's no north-facing ramps. It would be kind of interesting if we blended sunken ground with, like, dirt cliff or something, so you could go down a level and then go up a level onto a dirt cliff. Even though it might not make, like, topological sense or whatever, I think that would be an interesting thematic or visual or something. But currently we don't have that, and we don't have a dirt cliff suite, so we can't make that easily. And I could spend the rest of my development time for this map working on that, but I don't think that would be a reasonable thing to do, so... Oh yeah, that reminds me, I have to send DF something. I guess I'll just move this to the special bus, actually. First, let me build the latest plugin. I sure hope that, since Veek has had to move on to another version of Visual Studio, I really hope that it doesn't cause conflicts, because the last time we had different versions of Visual Studio when developing plugins, specifically GBTP, it would just cause crashes if I built a version that was, like, previously built in another context. Now, it wouldn't crash right out, which is the real sad thing. It would only crash on, like I remember, like, I issued a command, like, I think it was through a hotkey or something, right? It was like, oh yeah, let me just, like, you know, push some shit here. That's a good bit. Think maybe we forgot to... think maybe we forgot something. Wow. Good one. I have to rebuild. There we go. Oh. Right, we need other fucking... So if... Turn tech... Well, I guess it'll automatically be turn tech hidden otherwise. So we need to do if... How do we even check this? If a nuke silo has an... Oh, I may have an example of when this happens in AI orders, actually. Or is it in AI orders now? It is not. It is in unit AI. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So we're looking for silo building silo. So in this case, it would be unit building silo nuke. So I guess we could do and unit train. What is it? Building train. Build queue. Wonder why this was ever done this way. This is pretty stupid. I don't know why it's casting this though. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. Pranked myself there. All right. I think that should be enough. Let's try that. I just found a bug where nuclear missiles weren't handled in the code, and for requirements, I mean. Where's my shit? Oh, no, now we broke that. So I assume it's this that's breaking it. So what if I do that? No, I don't think... I can't do that because it has to be the unit build queue slot or whatever. So... Index of active unit and build queue. Okay. So I guess instead of this, it would have to be... 228. I'll change that to unit ID none after I verify this. That's the only thing I could think of, though, is like its active build queue probably doesn't technically equal 0. Okay, yeah, it works. That's pretty good. Now, in this case, we have to make sure that after it, okay, it trains the nuke, and then it can't use it anymore. And then if I cast nuke silo, okay, it pops off, and I can train another one. Okay, nice. So now we're talking. Okay, we'll say fix Nidus, or not fix Nidus, fix nuclear silo requirements. Well, I guess it'll be nuke missile requirements. All right. Well, that was kind of goofy, but fix that. Oh, that's right. I have to post a video to the Discord server. Okay. Should be able to close that now. And now that I've built that and it works, I can go ahead and paste this shit in here, delete that, name this to pre-release. Grab the editor, throw that in here. And then, yes, I guess I will also grab the brush. Why do I even have this test? Get it out of here. Okay. So for special boss, update to newest pre-release. Okay, back to this. I was trying to think about what I would end up doing for height variation over here, because obviously I'm pretty limited. Do I want another Basilica area down there? I guess that would still be somewhat in keeping with the theme, because we've got this idea of, like, here's a Basilica, and then there's the bridge, and another little Basilica outpost, and then another bridge, and then Basilica over here. But you got bridges over here on the left as well, so I'm not sure. That's the other question, too, is, like, do I want to characterize any particular areas as being more or less settled? I think it's fine for the general feeling to be kind of haphazard. Because the idea is that this is probably not a world where the primacy has even settled. It's probably more like a Starbound area in that sense. We can do something like this. To be kind of completely honest, I am a little surprised that flagstones didn't blend with Basilica to begin with. Like, it seems kind of obvious that it should, at least in my opinion. This one loads so much faster than the jungle one, dude. Not even close. I wonder why Blizzard elected to make the cliffs for these expansion tile sets so stupid looking. I mean, they kind of do look. I like the south-facing ones, but the north-facing ones are always goofy, like without exception. All right, that's a okay amount of space down here. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with this area, but I did like the idea of kind of segmenting this path almost. If I had bridges between dirt and like between high dirt cliffs over dirt, I would actually like in a moment's notice attempt something like that here. That'd be pretty good. Is there even a block there? I guess technically right here. The only place. But that's pretty hard to see, so I'll be happy with it. I kind of like how you could theoretically just miss all of the artificially placed tiles, like the flagstones and stuff, and even the crushed rock to some degree. You can miss all that stuff in this platform just by taking this path over here. It does suffer that, like, one of the reasons why I'm using crushed rock so much is that there aren't any other tiles to use. Like, I can't replace it with any. I could use mud, but that looks really goofy when it's placed everywhere. Flagstones obviously is kind of like the same sort of style. Like, there's no grass tile on Badlands, or jungle tile on the jungle tile set, or anything like that. There's no corollary for that here. We got mud. So, like, mud is mud. We got crevices, which is like rocky ground. It's the unbuildable tile. We got flagstones, which is kind of like asphalt. Well, no, not really, because it's a subtile of crushed rock. I only modified it recently so that you could actually place it as a new one. So I guess crushed rock would be like asphalt or ruins. I don't know. The whole thing is just goofy. It's goofy that we don't have like a grass type tile. I guess in theory, crushed rock is actually supposed to be kind of like that. And then I guess flagstones on it is kind of like ruins on jungle. But yeah, it feels a little one note for me. Like we could have had something more going on there. There you go. We got that. Ah, shit. Can't do that one. Let's do this. I'll probably be able to improve those blends a little bit later on. But they certainly work for now. There you go. So we've got rough ideas of where the expansions and all that are going to be. I guess it makes sense to put one down here, but it also could make sense to have one where I was originally. It just would have to I'd have to restructure some of the cliff here. And I guess you know what? It's good. This is a nice little snapshot of like terrain diversity or whatever you want to call that. So I'm actually okay with it being there. Oh shit! What's up, hoop thrower? I don't know what you mean by that, but I agree. Oh fuck! Can't do that. I believe they call that act passing. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's play around with some resource formations. Probably do something like that. And then I think we can use some doodads on the crushed rock as like... The problem is they just have like cock towers and that's it. They don't really have too many doodads. But we can do some stuff like this and it'll be an deterrent from like spamming units over here or whatever. Why did they have, like, I don't understand why they put like, first of all, rock trees or spires or whatever. Okay, it's kind of interesting from a conceptual standpoint, but why are they dicks? Like, why do you just have ones that are obvious dicks? It's possible that units can get behind the guys who are in that position. Well, we can check that pretty easily. Let's pop open a Mason. So it's technically possible that a unit could spawn behind here, but that's if this is a geyser. So I actually don't know about if it's a... Oh, I don't know. Let me place the Mason anyway. Where's Mason at? All right. So if we had this be a reservoir instead, would the same thing be... Oh, technically it is possible. Interesting. I don't actually know if it's probable, is the thing. I don't know, like, I guess technically if there were a bunch of units over here and it couldn't find an exit position, it would come over here. So, yes, technically. However, I wonder if I can't find some goofy doodad or something. Yeah, I probably can't block that off without it showing off as blocked off, like showing a ugly terrain blend or something. I guess what we can do to combat that is this. We can just do that. Okay. So that way it's a little bit more open. I guess what we can do here is move this doodad out of the way. Resource allocation is a bit lamer at that overall area, but it's still, like, it's technically possible to muck about over here. So. I'll take it. It's fine. All right, so we've got our first little bit. It's a good thing that that lines up, huh? Otherwise, it would be really noticeable. And fucked. Let's now consider what we're doing. Are we doing a base over here? It would be very close to the other one, spacing-wise. I like this spacing better. But if we do that, we should probably remove this north ramp and maybe push this cliff out a bit more. So that we have a little bit more space overall. Yeah, okay. Just something over here. There's not going to be a massive amount of maneuverability. So I'm thinking I want to place the structure around that area. Probably don't want to go above where this mineral field is, because if we do, we are asking for no turret room, naturally. And then you just don't get the ability to fight off air units. There's definitely something fucking missing here, though. Holy shit. Maybe we pull these down here. Drop that there. All right, that's a bit more meh, but it's actually functional, so that's good. I guess we can even move that down here, but then there is the concern of this maneuverability, so... Yeah, I guess that should be fine, but I am kind of thinking I would prefer this if it were the classic, like, mineral fields up against the... up against the wall. Or the ridge, as it were. I think if I had more variations of the mineral field graphic, I would actually be way better off in terms of being able to, like, create compelling patterns, but... I kind of like this, even though it's goofy. Imagine having to send units between this mineral field. Alright, there you go. That's your base now. So that makes sense, actually. That's definitely better spacing than if we had another one right over here. So now we just have the 3 bases down south to handle. I'm still considering what to do about the Zerg, I really do think that moving them to north of the Protoss is pretty compelling. But the obvious issue is, like, I guess I could just increase the resources for both the Protoss and the Zerg in that case. But they don't really have an immediate expansion to take. Like, the Zerg will probably try to take this one north. But if they do that, then they're angering the Protoss. Like, they're risking a lot from the player's perspective. Like, the player can just, like, walk over and start fucking with them. So they would have to do it, like... I'm actually not sure what they would have to do. The other question is, do we actually, like, I guess having them be at somewhat disadvantageous positions in the middle of the map in terms of, like, being far from expansions that are viable, it actually does make sense, because this is a team of two, and everybody else, the other two players on the map are solo. It's a 1v1v2, right? So the two in that question should have some sort of disadvantage, since their advantage is that they're together. And that is a pretty big advantage, obviously. So yeah, I think doing something like that probably makes the most sense, actually. So I guess we'll do this. And then I have to check. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Oh, Blizzard, you hilarious goofballs, and your goofball hilarious code. Alright, so that guy's got 12 mineral fields. And 1 geyser. I wonder if maybe I should just go for the double gas anyway, because 2 extra mineral fields is not that much of an advantage. And technically, if you want to get super technical, like the Zerg could take one of 3 bases pretty easily. North one over here, where they risk getting attacked by the Protoss. To the right immediately, like they both could take that base, I guess. And then to the left, I guess they could also both take that one. But it feels like it's more immediately available to the Zerg based on proximity. So I actually think it's fine to give the Protoss slightly more resources here. It's not like they will spike any harder because of the fact that they have 2 extra mineral fields over the Zerg. So it's going to take a while before their scribes can get to the critical mass number anyway. All right. So we've made the decision to do that. I think that's fine. The question then becomes, where do we go next? Where do we go from here? And the good news is there's not really much else to do. We just have to lay out the interloper base. Now, theoretically, he's going to have access to 3 expansions. One on this bridge island thing. One here up against this wall, this water wall. And then, again, one here in like towards the mid-left or bottom left. But I feel like at least one of these has to be his actual base. Spacing-wise, I don't think I can fit 3 bases in just this little area, because originally this whole block didn't exist, but this is like a dedicated pathway, and even though I could put resources here, that would stop you from being able to like path through it very cleanly. It's definitely something I'm experimenting a little bit more with from a layout perspective, is trying to put expansions not so out of the way that it's impossible to get to them, and it's impossible to like siege them or whatever, but it's just so that you're not like incidentally, oh, I guess I just like walked over here and here we go, you know, like at least it's not that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, there's a couple of things that it's definitely a balance, but making it so that that's not the case is pretty good. I think it's pretty important. Making it so that you don't just like haphazardly walk through an enemy's expansion and go, oh, I guess I found your base. So that's like the obvious extreme example is something like this bridge island area, where it's small, there's not much build space, and in order to get to it, you have to take a single pathway. So it's very much like it's a dead end kind of passageway. If you don't have air units or transports, then you're probably not going to even fucking bother going over there until you've already like gotten over here, right? So I don't think it's like a flawed design, but that is just like the factual breakdown of it. And I think it's probably fine. But you know, like it's the same with like this base in the top right, where yes, you can go towards it deliberately with multiple angles. Like you can go from technically from this basilica down. You can go from this north ramp. You can go from this into the double gas middle base and then around like in a horseshoe shape, sideways U. And you can also just go straight up here. So there's a bunch of different angles of approach for it, but it's not a pathway in and of itself. So that's where like some bases are kind of like pathways, where if you wanted to take this bridge and then attack the Protoss, you would be pathing through this base. And it's not always a bad thing, right? Because in this case, a player can make a decided decision to take the space and then safeguard themselves from that passageway, or at least have an early warning system if the enemy's using that pathway to attack them. They'll attack their expansion first. But I don't think every base should be like that. And I don't even think the majority of bases should be like that, actually. I think a decent number of bases, it's actually better to design them in such a way where you have to take a decisive, specific, deliberate path to get to them and attack them. But that's not on your way. And again, it's deliberate and decisive. These are like the key words. It's not just you're not just attacking it because you were on your way to attack another base and you found that base. You know what I mean? So incidental, unintentional. These are like bad words when it comes to game design, in my opinion. I guess we'll just copy that one and. Oh, we can't copy that one. Fuck. Some people have a lot of psychological issues they express through the act of having random sound effects play in the middle of their electronic beat. A window into another mind. A mad mind. Alright. Enough tile fucking. So I don't really fully believe that placing a base over here would be a good idea. This Protoss, I don't think they're going to necessarily go air, but if they do, or if like somebody else goes air and attacks in here, there's almost no defense. Because how do you attack an air force that's positioned right here? You'd have to cross the bridge into enemy territory to do that, or like maybe take this cliff or something. So yeah, this doesn't make any sense. And if I'm going to use it as a passageway, like an exit to this, then that goes back into the incidental versus deliberate argument we were just making. So I actually think that what we could do instead is have the main over here, and yeah, I don't fully know where I would go for actually placing the base, but I like the idea of the main being almost like right across from this bridge. Or maybe this could be like a natural and the main would be in the corner. I don't know. Tough to know. It does feel like there's not very much rush distance whatsoever if I place him like right as like this close. So maybe that doesn't make as much sense, but I was thinking of a base that's like around this area where that start location is. And the opportunities that you get to path around based on the way that the cover and the negative space is placed there would basically encourage the pathways of these two bridges as well as these two north-facing ramps over here. But I don't know if that's even feasible to do with this amount of space. So maybe I move it down into the left a bit more. And if I do that, then I definitely have to make this bottom left area the base, because that, like I said, there's not really any room for another base over here. And like, this is the least sound place for a base at this point, so. I like the idea of actually limiting access to the, like, further limiting access to the base over here. I guess we won't bother making it a big one since it doesn't matter, but there you go. I'm telling you, man, these north-facing cliffs are fucking... They're goofy in many cases. Don't fully understand what the fucking intention was there, but... The desert ones are kind of like that, too. Something about the color scheme coupled with the way that they made the cliff textures definitely makes the south-facing ones look very foreign and, like, really otherworldly, actually. The main issue I take with it is that it is kind of a fucking unreadable mess. But that's more of like a... whatever their initial intention was for communicating the art themes or whatever probably didn't go off very well, unless that was their intention. But it's kind of a weird one if that is the case. And also, so many of them are very similar in shape. It's like it's like each variant has another one that's like kind of a copycat, but slightly different. Just different enough to make you be like, what the fuck? Is that the same one? All right, let's get this done. This is a classic example of something that looks like it. Oh, maybe never mind. It actually is the same tile. Well, you know what? This whole fucking tile set looks so similar. It's really tough to tell if I'm being memed or if I am the memer. Well, so I guess that was mostly a classic example of the conditioning that the style set is placed upon me to make it really difficult for me to tell the legitimacy of one of these tiles. All right, we're getting somewhere over here anyway. Maybe I will replace a lot of this stuff with mud. I've been thinking about it, and I think it just makes more sense that way. How? Like, what the fuck? Fucking SCM Drift has a life of its own when it comes to some of these tiles, dude. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Is like it doesn't seem to follow any specific edict for what a consistent art direction or anything. You know what I mean? It's very much just like, I guess, like you said, haha, purple planet. Maybe I just link all this shit up, to be honest. This is where if I had the dirt cliffs that blended with this mud, I would actually just make this like whole section mud. And then have like a bit of a patch of dirt here and there. Like we could do a little bit of that actually. We could do something like this and then link it up. Although it looks very weird. I'm actually not convinced. Maybe we'll just do some artificially hand-painted shit. There you go. There's your fucking detail, homie. A fucking wacky looking tile. What's up, James? Welcome. All right, let's do... Do we want flagstones here? I guess we could just do crushed rock, actually. That's fine. Doesn't need to be massive. What's up, Remy? No problem. So I guess this not being the guy's natural, I actually did it originally envision the island in air quotes, the bridge island, to kind of be a natural expansion, and that's why it was going to be so safe, and also like simultaneously safe and not very shall we say, resource heavy. But considering that doesn't seem like that's where we'll be taking that particular concept. Oh, shit, what do I want to do here? Maybe I want to stretch this. He's already got a very unconventional main, so I don't know about making his fucking natural expansion also really weird, but... Well, good luck to you too. Hopefully you after you fix up your OBS settings or whatever, you become a games commentator as well. EA looking to remake the Dead Space game. I don't know how exciting that news really is, to be honest. I guess I'm incredibly cynical when it comes to remakes. I just feel like people are just fucking. It's the same thing as in Hollywood, where like people just don't have the dreaded word original, because I don't think Dead Space was a very original concept anyway to begin with. But they don't have their own ideas, their own like creative voice that they're doing it from they're coming at it from a very strange position where they're thinking of it in terms of product only and not really thinking of it in terms of like another dreaded term, artistic merit. Well, artistic is the dreaded term there, but you get the idea. Yeah, dude. Be a man of specific specialties. I don't know, though. I feel like it's not a very large market, but there's probably some people who'd be interested in somebody who knows a lot about those types of games actually commenting on them and maybe talking about trends or whatever. I don't know. I guess there's only so much news you can react to, but that doesn't have to be your pièce de résistance necessarily. Another psycho sound effect in this electronic track you guys can't hear. It sounds like it's the crunching of leaves or a twig or something. But at first I thought it was just some guy going like a sharp little slurp. Like, what the fuck? These people really will put anything in their tracks. A poor man's bing bong madness. So one thing I am thinking about at this juncture is, in order to get to this back level, or even to this one, you have to take this like little side path, because there is no path directly into the space. I mean, you can also use transports, obviously. I actually don't mind that necessarily. But the problem, if I wanted to instigate or inculcate more gameplay into this like bottom left area without having to force the player to go through the main or through the main's general sphere of influence, in order to do that, I would probably want to link this up, right? I would want to have like a bridge over here, or maybe just link up the water, the dirt water or whatever, and have it be like maybe a tight choke or something. Now, the problem is if I do that, if I do either of those options to link this up, that leads into some real tough spots, because then this base that's very much currently out of the way stops becoming a deliberate decision to attack into and starts becoming more of like, I can easily imagine a player going this approach and just attacking through this area because it's a bit more convenient, as opposed to wanting to specifically destroy the space. So earlier, before some people who are in the chat now joined the stream, I was talking about the difference between attacking a base because you've deliberately chosen to attack the base, and attacking a base because it just happens to be placed in between you and your opponent, and you're like, oh, I unintentionally, incidentally found this base. And that's the kind of language that I would use to describe this, is by linking this together, I am allowing a deliberate avenue of attack, but I feel like two bases then get caught in that crossfire, and it's almost incidental in its construction. Or I think it would feel that way. It's like, oh, I'm going to attack the bottom left player. Oh, I've attacked through this area and attacked two other bases when I meant to attack the main. You know what I mean? Like, there's some element of that that's inescapable anyway, because if you just don't know where the enemy is exactly, then you're going to have that problem, or that's going to be a thing that you have to deal with. But yeah, that is something that I'm wondering about. Soulburns, yes. Remaking Resident Evil 4, worst game you ever played. They're doing director's cut of Death Stranding. I never understood the hype behind that. Isn't that Hideo Kojima? Isn't that the same guy? I think he was somebody who made Metal Gear Solid or something. I might be confusing everybody, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that's the guy. I never got the hype behind the story driven, like the really long cutscene Metal Gear Solid games. I haven't played any Metal Gear Solid game, so take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, or maybe a bucket load of salt. But it does feel to me like those games are more like movies than they are like games, which is kind of the whole like thing I rail against at every turn. So it doesn't really seem like something I would be massively interested in anyway. I'm definitely not the target audience, if I had to guess. Definitely is weird. Definitely is weird. But Death Stranding in particular is like, there's some really interesting concepts just on paper from what limited my knowledge. Like, I have very limited knowledge of that game. But from what I remember, there's like, you have to carry around a kid or something. It's like in a pod that's gestating. And I don't know what the fuck the reason for that is. It might be really stupid. It might be really poorly executed. But just the concept of like having to lug around a kid and like it's like used as a weapon or a defense mechanism or something. It has like some significance. Like that's kind of interesting. It's like it's a very wacky concept, just visually. Like when you see that, it's like, oh, what the fuck? That's kind of interesting. It's compelling in a weird way, in a macabre way. It's like, what the fuck? Why are you carrying around this fetus? But I also know that that game is just like if you worked as an Amazon delivery guy, that's the game. Like, why the fuck would I want to play that? I'm playing games for escapism, not for real life like work. You know what I mean? The rain in that game ages people. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, if it doesn't nail gameplay, then it becomes more of like an interactive movie or whatever, which I'm not gonna like outright dismiss and say can't be interesting. But the problem is that everybody always like nobody has the no. We haven't evolved a collective language to talk about games that are like that in a more reasonable approach. People just say this is a great game or this is a terrible game when referring to games that are by definition not actually acting as a conventional video game. Like you can stretch the definition until it becomes useless, and then you have a game, and that would describe like what remains of Edith Finch or whatever. I forget what the name of that game is. Like any of the walking simulators out there. Like by a very stringent, like very loose definition of game, they would fit in game because it's like there's like a custom rule or whatever, and then you have to like whatever the definition of game is. Like yes, there's a goal and you must work towards it. But that's not very useful as a definition, right? So we haven't come up with terms that are like interactive software in air quotes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't really know what would be a good way to describe that kind of stuff. Yeah, I personally think emergent gameplay is the way to go because I like when I have the ability to actually do something that wasn't expressly like in a railroaded sense facilitated by deliberate rules. You know what I mean? Like it's the same reason why I like RTS games because you define rules, you define parameters of engagement, you define the tools that people have, like the units, the races, the abilities of those units, and so on. And then, okay, well, now fight. You know, now play a game. And it's like, oh, how do you use these tools based on these parameters? And there's an infinite amount of shit that's going to happen. That's like no one game, even play it on the same map, is ever going to feel the same. Because, like, well, I won't say that in such a strong way, but that is a very that I do feel like it's very hard to get a game that feels like it was played. That you, oh, I already played this game. You know what I mean? It's like very hard for that game to just get old. That experience to quote unquote get old in the same way. In my personal experience, very difficult to do that, and that's because there's like so much player expression for you and your opponents. So you get that emergent element of it, and I just haven't experienced emergent game design in a lot of other genres, just in general. There have definitely been some FPS games I've played that have had emergent game design, or emergent gameplay has sprang up from the design, because the whole point is almost like it's kind of a paradox, but the whole point is that you're not explicitly designing for whatever ends up the result, whatever the result is. You're implicitly designing it. You're designing it with the potential for that, but also the potential for a bunch of other shit that maybe didn't happen this run. And I guess emergent gameplay could also come from like those roguelike games, although a lot of that is left up to randomness. Whereas even if it feels random on the outside, the emergent gameplay of like Cosmonarchy or even Brood War is mostly down to the decisions made by players, and in Cosmonarchy's case as well by the AI, whereas obviously the AI was very poor in the original game, where you don't have the same like railroaded game dev nature, so to speak. Like when I play games like, for example, Half-Life or anything else that's like more exceptionally story driven, it does feel like I'm basically ringing up the developers with every action I intend to make, and they decide whether or not that I can make that action. That's what it does feel like that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm not really allowed to be creative. I can only pick from like a small assortment of options that the devs are fine with me taking. And I personally just prefer games where the list of options is enormous, and I just filter out and pick what kind of, like I filter that out based on my play style and based on like the tools I like to use that the game provides me with, and so on. What's up, Viker? Yeah, yeah, that's a classic one where you take the evil route. I think some game develop. I can't remember where this comment came from. It was a game. It was actually a games journalist, but I don't remember what the context was. They said that Mass Effect was really goofy in the morality system, because it was like, do you want to save this lost puppy or burn down an orphanage? And basically the choices like were that slapstick and comical a lot of the time. And I'm not going to say every single time, like without fail, but a lot of the time they were like that pronounced and ridiculous. And I thought that was like a nice way to encapsulate it, basically, even though it was probably like a exaggeration or whatever. Yes, a big fuck you to the opponent in their own personalized way. Exactly. Like the idea of the entire idea of playing a game is kind of like it implies that by playing the game you are doing something that no other person could do. And that was my big like the umbrage I took with like Half-Life and similar games is that it, by definition, especially the second game, it doesn't really matter what you want to do, because there's only so many things you can do, and the most optimal way, or one of them, the easiest way, or whatever you want to, whatever like label you want to put on it, is the developer approved way. And whatever slight little bit of creativity you might have in certain areas is like you basically just amounts to you being a cameraman, and then it doesn't really matter who's playing the game. In which case, I have no investment in doing that playing myself, and that's something that I think it's a profound difference in attitude. Like I distinctly remember there was one area where I was on some ruined street, and I had to walk into a certain area to trigger an event where this essentially a movie scene happened where a Strider, one of those big tall things, did a rocket launcher attack that like destroyed an area of the building. But it wasn't a mechanic. It's not like that happened free form, nor would I expect it to, based on the dated software and stuff. But it was only like, oh, if you walk this area, then the game progresses. But I didn't know that that's what I was supposed to do. So I was just walking around like shooting Striders down. I must have killed like 10 of them. And then I realized, oh, they're infinitely respawning so that this movie scene can happen. And it's like, oh yeah, well, I guess it didn't matter what I did then. It's so stupid. Movie is a poor game. It's not adhering to the definition. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like what is so like in order to properly objectively analyze something, you have to know what the intention was of the developer, and you can't always know that. So like unless interviews come out, or you can specifically interview the developer about something, which I actually had the benefit of the luxury of doing for Black Mesa, believe it or not, on my other channel, but because you can't tell you can't always intuit what the intention was by the developers. You have to guess, and you have to use like your own personal, like what you imagine a developer would do in such a situation. And that in and of itself is a crazy like act of like trying to figure out what the best one, what the most sensible one is. And you kind of have to you do have to take guesses, but then you have to act as if those guesses are correct for the sake of your argument and your analysis and your takedown, so to speak, your critique, your feedback. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to be able to deliver on very good feedback, generally speaking, because you're always going to be unsure of yourself as to whether or not you were correct about a certain assumption that you made. And so when it comes to genres of games, like I have to assume that, for example, Blizzard in Brood War wanted to make an RTS and wanted to make RTS content. And then based on those things, I can intuit like, okay, well, if that's their intention, then here's where they stumbled and here's where they failed objectively, because it's not an RTS in certain cases and it's a poor RTS in other cases, and I can like go down the list. And without being able to assume the intention of the developer, then you can't even make those kinds of statements, because like you can't even make that a kind of analysis, because if their intention was to make a terrible product, then they succeeded, right? In which case it's objectively not a failure, because that's what they wanted to do. But you can't assume that, because that's like a straw man version fallacy of like analysis or whatever. I don't remember which space game you showed me. Oh yeah, I do remember looking it up, but I don't remember the name of it. I think I wishlisted it though, if it's on Steam. You can name drop the name again if you want. Paragon was being a good boy. Renegade was being a dick for the sake of being a dick, pretty much. Uh, and yes, as you guys later talked about, you can convince I didn't know this about the third game, but you can convince Saren to just shoot himself in the head. Um, but then he still revives into a mechanical frog and starts like spinning around the room. So you still have to go through the most AIDS part of that boss fight, regardless of what you do. So pretty good. And yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to that. That's when you can convince them. But that's like you get into this weird habit if you. So I remember thinking about this because I was trying to think about like how to use bank data in an RTS sense to like improve player immersion or whatever. And a difficulty that I ran into was like trying to figure out how I would do it in a reasonable way, because I didn't want to have to account for every little thing that the player did, especially in an RTS. There's so many things the player could do, right? Like maybe they train like 1,000,000 of this unit, so I have to carry some of that over in the next one, or is that the unit that then like speaks to them, or like what all do I actually save and transfer between levels, and how do I make that impact? And one of the things I realized is like there was a temptation to do something that would be very easy on a technical implementation level, just so that I could say technically your choice did matter and your actions were recorded and something different did happen. But at that point, it's hollow because it's not really anything useful or high impact. And so it doesn't justify the whole system by itself in the first place. And I feel like that's what happens with Mass Effect a lot, in my experience, is that your choices matter, in air quotes. It's the same thing, actually, as the Heart of the Swarm dialogue line in StarCraft 2, where if you help Nova, or if you side with Tosh instead in Wings of Liberty, there's a different dialogue line, but the outcome is completely identical. So all it changes is like one dialogue line in an exchange between Nova and Raynor, and then Raynor still gets arrested. So your choices matter. It's so ridiculous. It's like the lamest way possible. And that's the kind of thing that you have a temptation to do. So in the Mass Effect case, it's like, well, what if you've been like what should your ultimate reward be for maxing out like one of these dialogue trees or morality trees or whatever? Oh, you get to like skip a phase of the final boss. But like, how do we make that make sense in the plot? Well, it's not really possible to make that consistent with a character, so I guess we'll just have to do it. It's kind of like the temptation of like, well, the player's done all of this shit throughout the whole game, and this is one of the things that's like a main marketing aspect of our game is that your choices matter. So how do we make that work? How do we make that take effect? You know what I mean? And yeah, you just get fucked. No, what I'm saying, Veek, is that Wings of Liberty is where you make the decision. Heart of the Swarm is when the decision matters by changing a single dialogue line. And then otherwise, yeah, they just gave up on the whole choice thing. Yeah, that is a good line where he's like, and also that it's just like slapstick casually being reported on by that I don't remember who the reporter was. The one that was like on all the newscasts. She's like, he was briefly interrogated and summarily executed, and it's like, oh yeah, that's how I would do it if I was running a propaganda. Like, no, you would actually show the execution. Like, wouldn't you want to make a big pomp and circumstance if this is really an enemy of the people? And then, yeah, obviously, as Rimtech alludes there, it's like the reason why he didn't do it before, allegedly, is because he wanted to. He didn't want to fuck around with like making him a martyr. So, well, good job. In this case, you didn't even kill him. He still fucks around and eventually kills you. Like, well, it doesn't kill you directly, but ensures that you die. It's like the stupidest outcome possible. No, it's not forced to Tosh. It's so Nova sometimes will say like if you help Tosh, Nova will say if you helped me out with my Tosh problem or whatever the fuck she said. I forget what the exact line is, but she's like, I might have looked the other way. If you don't, she's like, I'll go easy on you because you helped me out or some shit like that, where she says that, but basically still takes him in. Like, don't make this harder than it has to be. She's just more sympathetic, basically, more friendly, but still has a job to do. So. All right, I think I do have that bookmarked, but let me see. Yeah, something like that, basically. It's goofy. Nobody should ever say that. I do vaguely recall somebody saying that the games in the original trilogy of Mass Effect games got better as games as time went on. Like, the gameplay improved, but the story got worse, which normally I wouldn't give a fuck about, but it's a game that's designed to be known because of its story, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's kind of a big deal, I guess, especially for engendering like a sense of connection to the fans, I imagine. They probably weren't too happy with the story being slapstick and stupid. But I guess they were happy with the original game's story being fucking the way it is. Considering it's... I don't know. I also know that people just play those games for, like, completely... I won't say the wrong reasons. I'll say reasons unrelated to it being a game. Like, I know of multiple people. I won't say I know multiple people, but I know of multiple people who played Mass Effect multiple times, specifically so that they this is my starting my trans playthrough of Mass Effect, and it's like a fucking like basically it's like a like Commander Shepard male Shep with makeup or some shit, or like fucking masculine-looking femshep or some shit. It's like, all right, well, you know what? You live out your fucking fantasy, man. It's supposed to be a role-playing game, so whatever you say. Whatever you say, man. I can't comment on that. So, like, it's just like, I can't relate to that reasoning for playing a game ever. Especially since, like, I mean, it goes back down to, like, the whole silent protagonist angle. Before all of these other games, you had the silent protagonist syndrome, where games would just have silent protagonists, like Half-Life, and just or the viewport, like Brood War. It doesn't even make fucking sense. Like, these characters are addressed constantly, and they're in the middle of battle, and they could easily say, like, I need some backup here, or like actually be a character, you know? But they never do. They never say anything, and so you can't take them seriously as living being, like, as creatures, as entities in the setting. Like, they don't even make sense. So how am I supposed to, like, relate to a character that doesn't even have a character? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem, it doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. And so that's like, I never understood that angle either. Returnal. Never heard of that one. Oh yeah, the running animation is pretty funny. The fact that it lasts for 1.5 seconds. Try stashing, pulling and pushing. I don't actually know how I can stash. I already have this stuff ready to push, so. Huh? I think I have to, like, cancel it. I forget how to do that, so. I will passively sit here and wait for somebody, I wonder who it'll be, to send me the fucking command line argument. I'm such a fucking asshole. I don't know how to do this, so I'll keep terraining while somebody else fucking writes it. Somebody. Sorry, Veek. But it had to be done. If I had the source port for Brood War, what changes could I implement? Literally anything. So if we had the source code, it wouldn't even matter that Blizzard's code is terrible. It would... oh, stash all changes. That's pretty good. Well, the problem is I have stuff ready to push, and I can't push, so... That's the problem. Yeah, it's literally anything. Like, we would just rewrite the bad code. But the problem right now is that we have to memory hack our changes into the game's code base because we don't have the source code. So... Destroyed. Maybe I can... Is there a way I can pull... Oh, I can pull without pushing. Why was that so stupid? It's still broken, I think. What if I restore these? Push. It still says the 10 gigabyte limit or whatever. Get reset soft head 1. Okay, you. Actually. Oh, fuck. Is that a dash? Yeah, it is. Fuck! Didn't work. Or I'll copy this. Owned. Pull. Nope. That's not tilde. You're thinking of the squiggly line, bro. I forget what that even is. Oh, it is tilde. So what the fuck is this? I'm glad when I search this, I get COVID-19 pandemic in Pakistan. It's a grave. Okay. Well, this is what it looks like for me on my screen, so good luck fucking reading that one, buddy. Anyway, it still didn't work, so bye. I forget. I don't know if we ever found out where that line comes from. I know it's like in a mod, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't originally created by that guy, whoever made that mod. All right. Well, there you go. We've done stuff. Oh, okay. Now we know. You probably did tell me that. I feel like I know that information, but for some reason forgot it. Oh well. F in the chat. Oh yeah, I never ended up testing this. I meant to yesterday, but I did implement it. I wanted to. DF existing reminded me that this is a thing. Oh shit, it works. Before that was just like a fucking ocean of white. So, you know what's really sad, DF? What's really sad is in the cast over of my mapping tutorial that I'm editing these days. I started editing it yesterday. There's a cast over section where I'm looking at the AI playing my map after it's like the layout is finalized, and I see that the warp in is fucked, and I'm like, well, gonna have to yell when DF watches this video. He'll have some work to do or something. But I spoiled the surprise. I told you about it like immediately the same day, and then you fixed it like the same day or the next day or something. And now when my video comes out later this week, I'll look like the idiot because you'll already have fixed the problem. I don't think it has white space at the beginning. What game from E3 were you most excited about? I don't even know what was at E3. If people okay, if people in my Discord server didn't mention E3, I would have just forgotten it existed entirely, to be honest. I have no fucking clue. Why don't you tell me your most exciting game of E3? And I'll tell you if I've heard of it at all, I guess. I'm probably not going to be very much help here, dude, to be honest. No idea. Oh, okay. Yeah, you fixed it 2 hours, 30 minutes later. That's because you're Epic and not Blizzard. I haven't heard of Silk Song. I have heard of Cosmonarchy. I hear that's going to be pretty banging. The most exciting part was that it ended. Well, I can agree with that. I didn't even watch it, and I'm excited that it's over. Jesus. I mean, some people were saying that it's pretty interesting that they've gone for like the offline approach or whatever, or not offline, the approach where you can get access to stuff without like being there, so you can like remotely play demos, and people are saying that it's going to fix the problem where you had literal fucking like might as well have been like corporate propaganda, like the Anthem trailer that everybody remembers, where it was completely different to the game, it was like entirely faked. CG Project Red said that their trailer was also faked. So all that shit. Somebody like snuck in a fucking Jesus song in here. What the fuck? Instant remove. I don't think it was Jesus. It was something weird though. All right, what if I do this again and then what do I do? How do I fix this? I actually think you'll be pleasantly surprised because I don't think that there's any more larded BSs possible to run into. I think you already fixed it all. Oh, and I did see that. I just didn't respond to it because I'm a fucking idiot. But it does look pretty banging. Should I leak it to stream? All right, Remy. Thanks for sticking around and hanging and being an epic man. Enjoy your food. Oh, fuck. What is this? Aha. Here we go. Figured it out. It's because I'm epic, I think. I'll do that. That. Pretty dumb that I have one of two options. Somehow it doesn't look quite as limited as it actually is. Really need a fucking trained eye to see it. Still seems to be cucked. Okay, thanks. Yeah, that is a fair fright. Oh yeah, it was actually, I meant to focus group some fucking... for those who watched the mapping tutorial vid earlier this month. Holy shit, the second title is... that is a title. I'm very uneducated when it comes to anime. I've never really looked into it, so if I do end up checking them out anytime soon, you might not get anything high level from me. I have been watching more movies lately, though, so I'll see what I can do. Super Dimension Fortress. Holy shit, I can't speak. I'm done. Super Dimension Fortress Macross Do You Remember Love? That is a movie. That is true, Veek, but some Japanese animations Well, maybe not the animations. I know I've watched some Japanese films and TV series, and well, mostly films, I guess. Um, some of that stuff is actually pretty like mature and just like it's very different to Western media. Like I find that characters are very expressive, and they do a lot of communication without actual text, which is kind of subversive. Like without by text, I mean like dialogue. They do a lot of like nonverbal communication, basically. So I imagine there has to be some anime that don't fall into the trap of being deliberately infantile. And I just haven't seen them. I will say I thought what was it? One Punch Man was pretty funny because it was basically satirizing anime. I do think that the over dramatic stuff where it's like cut to reaction shot of a bunch of characters going "ugh" is always like funny as fuck, and not in a good way, not in a like a I'm laughing with them the anime, I'm laughing at it, or just like rolling my eyes and skipping to the next fucking scene or something. There was this really funny moment in I forget what it was. It was I think it was a oh I think it was a Nightcrawler the movie where like something was so uncomfortable and like sympathetic embarrassment was so high that I couldn't help myself. I just instinctively like fucking mashed that skip 10 seconds forward button. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go back. Because that was like a legit movie too. I enjoyed that movie. But there's like, I can't even remember the scene. There's some scene where I was just like, oh fuck, skip. It's like, that's how you know the scene's. Listen, if art is supposed to make you feel things, that was a success. Maybe not what they were thinking of, but yeah, I agree, Hooptor. Well, that's the thing is like people who maybe it's just that I've gotten like really whack recommendations, and the few times that I have attempted to explore them, and like oh, I'll give it a shot, you know. It's like once every few years. They're always pretty bad. But I guess the other aspect to that is a lot of these are like series, right? So they take a long time for you to get through. And so it's a time investment to just sit down. Whereas if it's a movie, like what James was saying, like, well, then theoretically, it's like, you know, at max, it's like 2 hours or whatever, and then you're done. So it's much less of a big deal. Banana on wall is apparently art. Jin Ro is a good anime movie. I guess I should start writing some of these fucking things down. I have a list of movies that I haven't seen yet that I. Mm, I have. Let's see. Did I watch any of these yet? I watched Her. I'll remove that. We have Jin Ro. What was the other one? Starship Troopers Invasion. Super Dimension. I'll be here for a while writing this one down. Super Dimension Fortress. What a title. All right, well, I wrote them down. All right. So, I guess we can place the Terran guy now. The dreaded end user. Okay. Oh yeah, I should probably move this over here. Well, there you go. Theoretically, we can do some AI testing now. Hmm. I think that's correct. Now I've got to go check the documentation real quick. Oh, it's actually 2. Owned. Can't just badmouth hoop thrower like that. Oh shit. I guess this will be player 4, actually. Witness. Yeah, dude. It's a very yellable word for some reason. I couldn't really tell you why, though. Definitely a bit odd. Well, I did do that when I would say I recently had a similar episode actually. DF, I was saying Tikimon. it's so it's so stupid. It doesn't even make sense, but it was pretty funny. So I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. Yeah, they're able to be placed anywhere you want, man. Not just. I still can't believe that was like a mission objective, and that's where it was. Why was Bith a meme again, by the way? Was it just because for whatever reason it was censored on Mixer? Right. Yeah, Microsoft will never make any sense to me, so whatever. All right. Where are we now? I think we're in a pretty good state at this point. So I think we're at the stage where we can go no further with basic texture changes, and we probably need to actually do some doodadding if we want to pretty this map up, which I certainly do. So I will save this as 422. Let's take a look at how it's come together so far. So again, this was our work at the end of the stream yesterday. This is the work at the beginning of this stream. Also, most of this work was done yesterday. And then this is what we just did. So you can see we moved the Zerg. We flushed out the bottom and replaced the Terrans. We swapped out this crushed rock for mud. I don't think we made any actual layout changes to the north, besides, obviously, changing the resource count of the Protoss base and the location of the Zerg one. But we didn't do anything else. The layout here is functionally identical. So it's really about like how the rest of the map impacts the layout by way of essentially putting a final stopping point on some of the pathways and stuff. So I'm thinking I did want to take a look at this base because it does feel really awkward in its current placement. It's up against this ridge, which you can just easily take pot shots at it from. And it's also like in the middle of a pathway. And so I wonder if maybe relocating it so that it's up against the water over here and then shifting some of this cliff in general so that you can sort of try to path around it to get to here or whatever might be a better solution. And then I think that would be like the major fix that the map would benefit from. I'm not really seeing any other massive pain points. The only other thing I'm uncertain of is this island bridge thing. Well, it's not really an island, but there's only one path to it and it's through a bridge. But as discussed earlier, I think keeping this a rather inconvenient pathway by way of forcing air units or transports is probably good for map flow, because then it encourages you to either take these two bridges to get into the Nidus Trinity, Or to go all the way around and attack from this angle. Maybe it should still be possible, I don't know. Yeah, DF, I found that it's really useful, actually. I've done this for a ton of maps. I'll quickly show off Wall Street War, actually. So, Wall Street War obviously started out as the capital, and I saved at the end of every single session that I was working on it, I saved it. So, this is the first stream I worked on this map. I did this, which is not very much progress. And then at the next stream, I worked on the starting locations for the commies on the bottom. And then I fleshed it out. I can't remember if this was... It looks like this is the next day. I don't think I did this on stream, though. I think I did this before stream. And then this is what I was able to do on stream. Or maybe I did both on stream, and I just saved these. No, because this is another day. The file name shows the day. And then I started to use the urban tiles that DF sent me. And then this is a big update, obviously. We basically finished the rough outline of everything. This was the very next day where I must have spent a couple hours on this. Then we made some minor changes. Same day, actually, probably after the stream. And then this is when I expanded the map and did some initial work on that. And then we fleshed out some more stuff. A lot of details. A big detail pass is coming up, but this is where I started adding like the observer star locations and stuff. This is the massive detail pass where I added a bunch of shit, and then from there it was mostly just small fry shit. And then this is like the current final version. I think the blank map is useful because I'm envisioning having like an interactive thing where you basically see the map evolve based on all these screenshots, and you could choose to like cycle through them yourself. But the idea is that it's almost like a slideshow on a website or something where it just like moves into the next, and then at the end it just loops back around. Saving a screen, just starting off, I think, with the first session, it's not a massive difference, but for some reason I like the transition between this and that. So that's why I did it. And I imagine it'll work out pretty well overall. What do you mean by back up my local? You just mean make a copy of the folder or whatever? Let me I'll close this then. I meant to do that. Oh my god. Multiple bases on the same cliff level while still preserving good spaces. Spacing. Yeah, I assume you're talking about... Well, I don't know which map you were talking about, but I think I did better in this case, where we have like... We have stuff like these three maps, or these three bases right here in the top left. I think are pretty well spaced. This one in the top right is super easy to defend, so that's why it's pretty low yield, whereas this one's more easy to contest. And then these ones in the bottom right, I think, worked out pretty well. I think these three down here are pretty well spaced. A lot of the devil is in the details, though. Like, if you changed the map so that like one of these bases that is currently really good was like a prime pathway. Like if I closed this area off, and then the only pathway from the mid right to the bottom left was through this area, where you're literally going through this base down here, suddenly that becomes much worse, right? Just by virtue of it being in the middle of a pathway. So I'm trying to stress this a little bit more often in my design commentary generally, but a lot of what makes a certain element of the layout work is not just it by itself, which is important, but it's also the way that the manner in which it meshes with nearby elements and even far away elements, depending on how long pathways are in any given map. So. It looks like my copy finished. Should I start pulling your stuff, or is it not yet ready? I could probably just pull your stuff and then paste my local version over. I guess we can probably delete this shit. Now that I think about it, but I'll leave it there for now. I'll throw it in materials. Oh, wait, it's not clogging up the root directory. All right. While I wait for Veek to tell me about the GitHub repo shit that we're dealing with, or GitLab repo shit that we're dealing with, I will take this opportunity to use the bathroom because that's what I have to do. Now I'll get some more water. That's also what I have to do. And then I'll make some more fucking progress on this map. Maybe we'll even test it or something. Let's see. BRB. All right, we're back. And now I'm standing up. Because why not? What's up, roller skates? Welcome to my stream, dude. Ah, so you are going to become a mutant in Fallout? Oh, shit. Is it one of those things where you got the first of 2 shots or something? I've heard really mixed signals. Like, some people have had no problems with one of them, but had a lot of problems with the other. Assuming you even needed to. Aha. Stuff that in my other desktop. If I were to open this one up. Oh shit. I don't have any start locations for... What are ones that will need explicit placement? There's not really any, like, weirdly set up ones, I guess, that don't already have start locations. I guess I'll do that one. But I'm pretty sure a lot of those are going to be working automatically anyway, so... Oh, fuck. I forgot I have to set my race explicitly, otherwise it'll fucking do stupid shit to me. Whatever. We'll all be Protoss. Alright, homies. Let's see what they got up their sleeve, huh? I like that. Yeah, that would be pretty good, actually. I think that would make sense. I guess it wouldn't display properly in SCM draft, obviously, but it would display properly in game. So, I mean, good luck putting all that detail in, but you know. What's all this? This is my latest map map. We've got the Alasara jury over here. These motherfuckers. These motherfuckers be bringing some people to justice, and those justice-needing scum are the Starbound. These exiles. We've got Protoss and Zerg fighting alongside one another. This cannot be allowed to happen. Fast expansion coming out from the exile, though. That's pretty interesting. And then down here, we got some Nidus Trinity motherfuckers who want to take the Zerg for themselves. So you can imagine there's plenty of conflict here. So it's a 1 versus 1 versus 2. Oh yeah, white justice. This is actually T-green justice. So you're wrong. As you can clearly see when you hold shift and mouse over the armor icon. I think I'll probably change the color for these guys, though, because I wasn't originally envisioning them as Starbound, so they'll probably change to another color. This turquoise is a little bit too classy for some fucking exiles. I do like that they've gone on the defensive and placed a cannon and a shield battery very early on. The first attack is massing up. It's a couple of zealots. This kills all bad players. Will it kill the exiles? Or is it even targeting the exiles? Dude, what if they just went all the way around the map to attack the fucking... I don't think that's what's happening, but that would have been pretty funny if that was the case. This guy seems broken, though. What's happening with him? I just noticed that one. Oh, he's running... He's got a Nexus request. Well, you know what they say. I'm a dummy. Classic. Ran the wrong script. I agree, DF. They are pretty epic. Let's try that one again. False start, of course. I probably should have noticed that. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. The Protoss are expanding before the Zergar. Bit weird, that. Well, now we know why. Just fast forward a bit. I guess we can fast forward until the that first attack is coming. But I actually don't know what this build order is going to do. Oh, the classic. Yeah, I even put a start location here, and he still fucked up the placement of the hatchery. I don't even know how that's possible. I do want to experiment with something. Somebody remind me to try another take of this after we get into it. But this is the classic fucking 4-gate opener, like, piece of shit. Hey, what the fuck? Hey, you piece of shit. Hey, give that back. Hey, you can't do that. What an asshole. Dude, what a dick. Who said he could do that? Blizzard. All right, well, we're back. Jesus. Yeah, I have to literally put the start location inside the mineral field in order to avoid that happening, so. Love to see that. I guess I shouldn't be surprised ever. Let me quickly pick a new color for the Starbound guys. What would be a good color for them? I feel like I would like to use Bedazzled Blue or Delft Blue or something, but the problem is that those dark colors are probably impossible to see on the minimap, so... We can try Delft Blue, and then... Let me take a look. It is pretty tough to see Delft Blue on the minimap. So let's try Bedazzled Blue. Maybe that will work out better. Also kind of tough, but it'll probably be better in-game, because the problem with SEM Draft's display is that it doesn't display resources as cyan. It displays them as like the normal player 12 color. So you get like mixed signals, or wrong signals, in fact. Yeah, we can. It's just I don't feel like going through the process of like picking a new... I guess it actually isn't really that big of a deal, but I'd have to go find the fucking signal or whatever. Yeah, I'll definitely want to have a brighter blue color. There's probably a color I could use out of that one on this map. But that is a breath of fresh air that we have access to that now. Okay, we fixed that. I've also experimented with shifting the start location down. It worked! Holy shit! I shifted the start location offset down by 1 tile, and they actually placed it correctly now. So I guess that's the fix for the stuff on Kakadu Port as well, where the observer slots are for the the Protoss expansions in the AI test map anyway. The double gas player expansions, players 3 and 6. That's pretty impressive that we were able to fix that one. I like it. Pretty good. All right. We've really stumped them now. There's no way that Lard can interrupt this process. We will finally win. And by win, I mean enjoy watching a game. I also like shit like this, where it looks like Blizzard just have a fucking... They fucked something up, dude. This is fuck. Whatever this is. This is a disaster. It's just like a 1 pixel line where they just didn't align these correctly. That's pretty bad. And there's the blending issue of the inner corner. Here we go. Ooh, shit. Now, this could be interesting. If he's able to actually slap down a solid, like, static defense force, even just 1 sunken, and then a bunch of units would be potentially sufficient. I'll probably trade off the Vorverkora for a high, more assault-based, but whatever. And interestingly enough, because of this change where the Zerg AI actually works, you're not going to see the top Protoss actually attack down there. You are going to see, apparently, like, them being the recipient of the first combat. This is a fucking confused Mason. Hey, Veek, now that you're done, hopefully done anyway, with the Git stuff, is there any way you can investigate the bug where if you don't have enough money when you reach the build space for only Masons, specifically it's Masons. Yeah, fucking kite, Simia. Oh shit, that's a lot of fucking money. Fuck him up! Worker revolution! But he's actually doing it. Holy fuck, that's impressive. Meanwhile, the side Peliska is somehow still alive. I can't believe these fucking workers were the answer. This is a good prank. Owned by workers. Anyway, yeah, can you look at the Mason issue? Oh fuck. Well, it seems like they are at least actually waiting for a completed attack, but whereas they weren't always. They are sometimes kiting into them, like the enemies, though, against predominantly melee units. And then the Dracodon just froze there. I don't know what's going on there. That might have been a more standard issue, if you know what I mean. What's going on over here? Oh shit, he's got like a splinter force to charge in and attack this base. Oh fuck! Workers, defend! And fuck that pylon! Well, that could have been a lot worse, but instead he just gave him a free extra simulacrum on this way out. Here you go. Oh fuck. If only these were cannons. I think the Protoss on top are dead. I don't think they have them. They are trying. They're trying very hard. In fact, if it weren't for the tag team from the Protoss... Oh, fuck! You're not, You definitely haven't fixed every single issue with the Hierophant, but it is a little bit more consistent by the looks of things. Brutality. Oh shit, it's me! Didn't expect that. I feel like maybe the overlay for nanite field might need to be improved a little bit in terms of like being more transparent, because it is kind of hard to see what unit is being healed by it. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'll just leave my scrapyard right there. Jesus. I can see where there were improvements made to some of the air units, but in this case, like, I don't know what this guy's doing. He's definitely lost a lot of DPS so far in this fight. I don't know that it would have made a massive difference, but... They actually seem to somehow be fucking driving them back. I don't even know how this is feasible. I guess it's because the simulacra keep cloning and then they don't have that many actual HP, but they are eventually dying. Aha! They're here! Why did the witnesses have kills? Oh no, you just mean it shows. Fuck that aquifer. Oh no, using workers to fight simulacra. A great idea. Oh man. Hey, they got one of them. There you go. Easy. All right, so that was an interesting test. I will say I'm kind of surprised that the AI collaborated in the middle here. I wouldn't have expected that in general. This is another case where we need to move the start location down to get the proper one. Yeah. Yeah, kills witnessed. It's not even used for anything. It's just like a bit of trivia. I guess you know what I should do, believe it or not, is I should actually go through that map and I should just fast forward until the top left and bottom right expansions that have start locations in them get expanded to, just to see if I can make corrections to it. So, just see what happens there. That guy's way down. What the fuck? Reasonable. Well, that outcome does seem consistent, so let's wait for somebody to take this one. Somebody called down the thunder. All right, that looks bang on, so that's nice. Okay, so we made changes to this one. Hopefully, they result in a fix. Obviously, we can do some more testing later. Guess I have some visual pizza. Well, all right. So we know what we're doing anyway, or do we know what we're doing? The takeaways from that test, besides fixing some of the bugs like the town hall placements and the gas alignment and shit like that, I was kind of surprised that this expansion worked because I picked a pretty aggressive, like obviously like 4-gate or 5-gate opener before expanding and stuff. Like it's pretty aggro. So I was actually expecting the Zerg to just get destroyed, but they were actually able to resolve it. I think if this Protoss player hadn't helped out in the early game, that base would have fallen. And that's an interesting result. So I guess the question becomes like, I'll probably need to do some testing of me as the player to see if I can like, if it's possible for me to hold out long enough. Because if I can, the other thing, so the what's really interesting, I've described this before as like the Gold Rush level design style, where you have stuff in the middle and then you have these external factors, and you're almost like making a temporary alliance where you want the other solo player, in this case, the Terrans, to do well and to defeat your opponents. That's what you actually want. But then you want to be able to defeat them as well. Like, so you want them to like do enough of their part and survive long enough so that you can like pick up the pieces and defeat the enemies or whatever. So I think as the Protoss, you focus on trying to deny this base from the Zerg. They've got to take this base then because the Protoss take that one. So they've got to take this one towards the left. And just by denying this base alone, that's like a victory condition, but I don't think it's the only thing. Because if you fuck up this middle player too much, and then or the middle team too much, then the Terrans don't get contested at all, and they become a threat. And you've just expended some forces there as well. So I think it's really interesting. Like, not really a mind game, but there's some element there where it's like you're almost like poker. You're bluffing. Or trying to like oh, I hope he doesn't do X Y Z or whatever. Like I think that there's some interesting elements at play there anyway. So I don't know how successful it will actually end up being. I feel like maybe it's more ideal to have a bigger map if you're going to play around with this stuff. But I do like some of the changes overall to the layout and stuff. So I'm going to make that change that I talked about where I move this base over so it's not like smack dab in the middle of a fucking like key pathway, basically. I don't think it's going to be it's not as necessary as it would have been if the Zerg base had been here, but I still think it'll be healthier overall for map flow. And I'll shuffle some of these cliffs and stuff. But after that, I think the layout's done, and it becomes time to write a dialogue script, figure out who my characters are, get a voice acting in, even if it's just like first draft voice acting, and then hook up the transmissions, get the map specific triggers, and all that shit. So I'll make the layout change now, and then I'll probably kill the stream, take a walk, hopefully don't get rained on, and when we come back tomorrow, I'll be hard at work on the stream or on the dialogue stuff or whatever. So let's get rid of this. We still need to make some fixes for the endlessly repeated tiles in some of these cases, but that will require some more like menial labor time later, basically. Repetitive work and stuff. So there you go. I feel like that's generally better. You can choose to just go like down here and then down here, or vice versa if you wanted to like relocate or something. I think it also allows me to expand this pathway a little bit. Something like that. Just so that there's a little bit more gameplay space over here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I might continue to iterate on this stuff, particularly some of like the negative space in general in this area. Something like that might be a little bit better, so that I can do something like this. Although I guess I could do that anyway, right? That feels a bit better now. Okay. I guess I'm not madly in love with this overall layout for resources. All right, maybe that'll work. Okay. So where does that leave us? I guess we can drop 5 and then take a look at the stuff again. So most of this is the star locations and then that top left area that I changed up. Not really anything else going on here. I guess I could probably add a bit of cover over here. It's like a small bit of negative space. Could go right here, actually. So that doesn't accomplish a massive amount, but it's just one more bit of terrain that you can like use to muck about with this area. I think that's fine. There you go. Save over our image that we just made. And then I think we're good for now. So yeah, I will close the stream there, I think. It was pretty good. We got some useful testing done, fixed some bugs, improved some layouts. Obviously finished the layout in the first place, got the triggers in for general AI stuff. So yeah, we're good to start the final art pass, as well as the dialogue, script writing, the storytelling stuff, and the any AI script customizations we want to make beyond the stuff that's necessary for triggers and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. I'll be back same time tomorrow. So till then, bye.